Okay. Hello, hola, and happy Pride Month, everyone. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Pilar Mejia, and I lead the Gente TMRG here at GitLab, where we are going on a quest to figure out how to grow our careers. When we sat down with the leads to talk about fiscal 25, one thing that just kept on coming up, we've all heard it, and we hear it across the different TMRGs too, was just career growth, how it can be a little bit of a challenge to figure out what to do, how to take that first step, how to navigate all the resources here at GitLab and the ever constant changing places we put them and the ways we iterate because we're always improving things and adapting things. So we're on a scavenger hunt. We're asking some questions. And today we are super excited to be teaming with the Pride TMRG, and we're going to talk about IGPs. I'm not going to explain what it is because we're going to get into it. But I will present my co-host, Alex. Alex has been such a great ally to Gente. We've had a lot of fun just hanging out around the TMRG events, and he has kindly raised his hand to co-host this session with me. So Alex, hello, how are you?
Hello, I'm doing well. I'm doing well. It's a great day. It's a virtual Friday for all of us, so it's a good day.
I forgot. Yes, tomorrow's friends and families. Yes, yes, yes. So good. All right, Alex, where are you based?
I am in Burlington, Vermont.
Wonderful. And your role
I
is?
am a site reliability engineer working with GitLab.com.
I love it. How long have you been at GitLab?
8 years.
Okay, Alex,
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a long time.
the original GitLabber. I love that. Well, thank you so much for being here. Do you want to do a roll call for our panelists, Alex? We've got Denise, Samantha, and Trey.
Yeah, Trey, you're not even listed here. Well, we will start with Denise. Denise is the director of talent management here at GitLab. Can you tell us a bit more about yourself, Denise? What does that even mean?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a new role for GitLab, so happy to introduce it. So yeah, I'm Denise Parsonage. I've been at GitLab for just over 3 years. I'm based here on the central coast of California, so that is halfway between San Francisco and LA. It's the easiest way to explain it. I've been in tech for pretty much my whole career in a variety of different people-related roles, both in the US and internationally. And talent management is really focused on helping GitLab focus on high-performing teams, career development, succession planning, talent assessment, and performance. So I've been in my previous role at GitLab was kind of leading some of the program around talent assessment for GitLab, launched Workday talent assessment, also responsible for our promotion process and future iterations on all of these kind of people related programs that are around feedback and performance and driving high performance for the organization, what that looks like, what it feels like, how we assess it and grow as an organization.
That is awesome. I when I joined 8 years ago, there were 80 people, and that was not even a thought. So we've come a
Yeah.
long way.
Yeah, and I just moved into this role, so I'm an example of a career development story at GitLab.
Perfect.
In fact, I joined as a consultant, PvP, supporting the sales team for about 4 months while we had doing a maternity leave cover for Carolyn, um, who leads the PvP function for sales, and then switched over to be the lead PvP for the marketing organization. And just recently, we announced my move to the talent management. So, kind of a little windy road here at
That is
GitLab.
awesome. Though it's the path at work. So that's awesome. Who knows better than the one who's been through it, right?
Yeah.
Um, cool. Next, we've got Samantha. Samantha Lee is the senior program manager on talent development team. And what does that mean, Samantha? Where are you? What are you up to over there?
Yeah, so I work on the talent development team with Trey, and the work that I'm really focused on talent development right now is manager training and manager enablement. So you might have seen the words like Elevate or Elevate Plus thrown around. Those are our internal manager training programs. So a lot of the work that I do is focused on making sure that our managers have the resources they need to be great leaders and to deliver great results on their teams. I'm also really interested in, like, over the last 4.5 years of GitLab, have spent a lot of time doing career growth work. So some of the other programs that I've been part of is like our mentorship programs, which we also ran with the women's TMRG for a couple of years, and documentation and resources around stuff like we're going to talk about today, like the IGP, growth and development benefit, kind of all of that, like training and enablement work. And maybe I'll share my own like windy career GitLab road here
Yes,
too, because
please.
when I started at GitLab, I was actually on the marketing team as a community advocate on the community relations team. And then after about a year on that team, transitioned to the people group and worked. So now I've been on talent development for about 3.5 years. So kind of just I don't know, my story is kind of an example of another career transition from one division to another, which I know a lot of people are interested in doing at GitLab. So
Awesome. I love that. And last up, Trey, the Director of Talent Development. Tell us a bit about yourself. How long have you been here? What do you do?
Yeah, I'm still figuring that out, Alex, but glad to be here all
I
this
think
time.
that's totally fair. Me too.
I was like, oh my gosh, one of these days I will get my life together. But thank you all for having me. I'm kind of I don't know, a pseudo like panelist, but not. I joined because I am only 6 months in here at GitLab. So I recently joined. I was at Netflix before this. I'm glad to be here. Wanted to learn more about IGP since GitLab never uses acronyms. I was like, oh, I may as well step. I'm joking. That's a joke. I was like, I got hit with ABC, LMNOP like day 2, but all good. But yeah, I'm joining to learn a little bit more, also share a little bit more wherever I can plug some of the other programming that Talent Develop is leading. I think growth and development, the G&D fund would be relevant maybe for certain parts of this conversation. So happy to answer and plug G&D in where it fits. But yes, I head up talent development. I was a high school math teacher many, many moons ago, and bounced from instructional design, from teaching to instructional design to like global program management, and still like love and continue to play in this world. Glad to be here at GitLab, learning a lot every day. I'm based in San Francisco, but right now I'm actually in Mobile, Alabama. And yeah, I think that's about it. I don't know, Alex, what else should I speak to?
I'm going
Nice.
to,
No, I think that's amazing. Go ahead,
I
Pilar.
was just going to say, I was going to provide additional context as to how Trey got roped into this, because he had a delightful coffee chat with myself and Romer and Samantha and Juliana, and we walked away from it and we were so excited, and we were like, all the career things, all the resources, talent development, yes, let's go. And that's kind of how we were like, well, we're going to need a calendar. So thank you, Trey. We're so excited to have this resource.
I love it. Yes, thank you so much. Welcome. 6 months is I not enough at all to get your feet wet, even I feel like here at GitLab, especially with the onboarding issue alone, just like, Anyway, so let's get into it and ask the question we're all here for. What is an IGP?
yeah, so the IGP stands for an individual growth plan. And at GitLab, the IGP is a career planning and skill growth planning tool that we use in Workday. So if you've been at GitLab for more than a year, you might remember, or you might be familiar with the format in Google Docs that we used to use the IGP in. That changed around this time last year, and now the IGP is a tool within your Workday profile. So the way I like to describe the IGP is like really highlighting, I think, two pieces of our work culture at GitLab that, like, I don't know, really fuel the reason why we use the IGP. And that is both the idea of nonlinear career growth and the like principle of being a manager of one. So I like to bring this up right at the beginning of the conversation about IGPs, because I think sometimes when we think about career growth and planning for career growth, it's so easy to just be like, okay, I am a program manager and now I want to be intermediate and then I want to be senior and then I want to be manager, and like a really like forward path upward, I guess. But it's important to remember that the IGP is a tool for like really more holistic, nonlinear career growth. So it might be a tool that you use to focus on getting to like whatever your next level in your career is, but it also might be a tool that helps you grow a skill that's going to help you do your job more efficiently, or like an adjacent experience that's going to give you more like a well-rounded kind of background. So IGPs really support that idea of nonlinear career growth. And also they are a tool that's really driven by you as an individual team member. So as we like lean into that idea of being managers of one, we're also like the DRI of our own career growth. And so the IGP is designed in a way to like guide you in setting specific goals for your career growth, but it's also like a tool that you should make and use it in a way that works best for you. So there's no like real right or wrong way to fill it out. A couple of other things that I put in here too, just to kind of like summarize, I guess, the 3 things that an IGP helps you do: set and achieve whatever your learning goals are, stay organized, and also prepare for promotions and career transition.
I'd also add, thanks Sam for that really great overview. I'd also add that it's a living living tool within Workday. So it can be, updated at any time and can be closed, opened if you have a new role, etc. So it's not a static thing that you do once and you put it on the shelf. It's something that you should, be tapping into, really updating as you're progressing on your career goals. And it's really nice that it's in Workday, because it also allows us to, in my role, to be like holistically look at like how many team members are using this tool? How can we, foster more enablement like this session today to really promote it and ensure that folks understand how beneficial it can be to them in their career journey and to help foster conversations. So I often run reports, and we give managers the tool to run reports as well to see like, are my team members, filling this out? Are we, how can we promote this in my own team to help foster these really important conversations as I develop my own team members?
That's great. Thank you so much. So it sounds to me like the IGP is kind of that plan that we need to put that first foot forward and start thinking about what exactly are we doing here with our careers. And that being said, I would love to hear from you all. We've got a lot of tools. We've got a lot of things in our day-to-day. Why should we take the time to start an IGP? Why is it important?
Yeah, I covered that in the agenda. I think it's really important because it's that opportunity to have an intentional and focused plan. So we might have it in our heads. We might kind of, think, oh, someday I want to be X, but it really is that tool that can help you focus on what's important to you, what you want to learn, how you want to grow. It articulates, it prompts you with, really thought-provoking questions. And it gives you that plan to be intentional about your aspirations and your development, and then track your progress. And it also is then the catalyst, or one of the catalysts, to help facilitate that conversation with your manager or even peers, or mentors or coaches or stakeholders, like, oh, I've been thinking about in my role, I'm a program manager, and part of my role, it's so important to have really crisp and significant stakeholder relationships. Like, how do I develop my skill set there? It gives you again, that focus to then have that conversation to search out resources or training or ideas to help your growth in that way.
That makes
That's awesome. I was gonna say, you know, I feel like the IGP has always been difficult for me, to try to figure out what to say and all of that. So having having like a path, I guess, is good. So what sort of things should we be putting in there?
Yeah, I put in a bunch of different ideas of like where you might start when you're trying to think of like what actually goes into the IGP. So the first recommendation I would make is to really take a look at both the job frameworks and the job families. So I linked both of those in the agenda. The job frameworks, if you haven't seen it before, it's going to outline like skills that are required at each job grade, regardless of what division you're part of. So like all job grade 7s demonstrate mastery in these 5 or 6, I can't remember how many columns or rows are on that sheet, but those skills. So say you're job grade 7 and you want to move to an 8. You can take the job frameworks, look at those skills that fall within a job grade 8, and really think about like which ones maybe are my weakest points or which ones do I want to strengthen. And those can be kind of a catalyst for, okay, now I know that here's the skill that I need to become a job grade 8. And so I can kind of work backwards to think what kind of trainings or experiences or work can I do to strengthen those skills. Job families will do a really similar thing, regardless of if you're looking to stay in your existing job family or if you want to move to a different job family. That'll get more specific about what roles and responsibilities you need to be able to demonstrate. So I would suggest starting with both of those documents as you're trying to choose, like, what should I even be working on? 2 other recommendations that I have as you're trying to figure out what to put in your IGP is to have a conversation with your manager pretty early. This can help you figure out what projects are coming up in the next 6 months or year, what gaps your manager sees on your team. And that can like give you some information of like, okay, there's this. My manager sees a gap in X skill. And so I want to support my team's development by filling that gap. And that can kind of be like a driver for what you might put into your IGP. And then the last thing in here that I put is Denise was kind of talking about how talent management and talent development is really focused on making sure that we're building high performing teams at GitLab. And if you're not familiar with our definition of high performing teams, I linked that, but we have 5 tenets that GitLab uses to define what high performance looks like. So I just started to kind of do like a bit of a offhand brainstorm in the agenda to think about, okay, if we define high performing teams as like acting with urgency, what skills do I need in order to be able to demonstrate that? And so maybe you need to get better at prioritization or having difficult conversations. Both of those skills are things that you could put into your IGP and then find resources that you want to use to help improve those skills. So I just put some ideas down for each of those tenets of high performing teams. Could be like a starting point for what you put into your IGP.
Can I just hop in here like I'm provoked? Yeah. I
Please,
wanted
yes.
to just underscore maybe one of the things that Samantha brought up first around skills. I think it's really important to think about growth beyond just like this job or this level, right? And maybe that is part of the inspiration, but I like how you spent time talking about the skills, Samantha, because I think they're like people should understand vertical growth and horizontal growth. So when I look at this role, right, and let's say that something that I identify as a gap, maybe it's like my technical capability around X. I like to kind of play in this creative space in this world or whatever. And so maybe it's important for me to find opportunities to develop that skill, even if I'm just in my role right now, develop that skill more. Whether it be through live experiences, conferences, I can use my G&D fund to sign up for other like maybe on demand or live conferences to attend to grow my skill set there. But like if I only look at a certain job as like this goal, sometimes that can be hard because there's so many factors that play into that. But if you think about the skills that sit underneath that and like think about how you now expand your skill set, grow horizontally, there may be something similar, right? That the opportunity meets all that preparation and you can step into potentially a new role. But I don't know, at the end of the day, you've now just expanded your skill set, honed capabilities, and yeah, grown kind of even in your own role. So just wanted to echo the skills note. I think that's incredibly valuable.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Sometimes just getting that first thing on the piece of paper is the hardest thing. So these are some really great food for thought. And that being said, I would love to know practically, here I am sitting in my laptop, how and where do we get started? What's a good action that we can all do as soon as we hop off this call? Or maybe if we're multitasking on this call.
Yeah, so the IGP itself, like I mentioned before, is within Workday. So I linked in the agenda this like step-by-step guide that we have for how to find where the IGP is in Workday. So your first step would just be to log into Workday and open a new IGP, or if you already have one, to update the one that you already have open. I also included kind of what we were just talking about what even then goes into the IGP is a guide that we have in the handbook for how to think about the questions that the IGP is going to ask you and what you could be including there. So a bit of a summary of what we just talked about.
Amazing. And just to keep it real simple, Workday is found in Okta, right? So we need to log into Okta first, and we should find a gorgeous little tile when we search for it that says Workday. And then we can be up and running. And for those of us that do have the old school Word docs, as you can tell, I have not looked in Workday yet. Is that something that like I can import, or should I just like copy and paste into the fields? This looks pretty cool and pretty easy.
Yeah, it's not something. So yeah, Pilar is talking about how we used to do the IGP in a Google Docs template. It's not something that you can directly import into Workday, but you could take content from your Google Doc IGP and copy paste it into the IGP in Workday. When we moved it to Workday, we updated some of the language on the questions. So you're not going to see like a word for word or step-by-step match between the two, but like the intention behind the IGP didn't change.
Amazing. I'm excited. Does anybody else have any questions on how to actually get to the IGP? I feel like it's a very important first step. Is IGP and career conversation document the same thing? I recall my manager shared me a document like that. That's a good question. That was in the chat from Shreya. Thank you for the question, Shreya.
There is, I think we have a link in the handbook or in former training about a document that can help foster a career conversation. So it would be supplemental to the actual IGP. It does not replace the IGP.
Shreya and I have the same manager, so I know exactly what she's talking about. And yeah, it's more of a overview kind of like doc on figuring out kind of what your goals are more in general, just like what are you even thinking? What is happening now? Where do you want to be? What kind of options are you thinking about? Stuff like that. So it's definitely a supplemental sort of thing to the IGP.
Thank you for the question. And I see, Nick, you have your hand raised. Did you have a question as well?
Yeah, when I log into Workday, I see like app in a section called apps, I see performance, and only there do I see a button that says start growth plan, probably because I haven't started one. Pretty new. But is that this is where we're looking at underneath performance? I didn't see anything that shouted like IGP at me when I was browsing around Workday.
Start growth plan is the wording.
Perfect.
Okay. Absolutely.
Okay.
Amazing. Real-time feedback. Thank you for the question, Nick. we will click on that start growth plan.
Cool. And something I always struggle with is, talking about myself at all. Performance reviews, anything like that. So what kind of suggestions do y'all have for like writer's block?
Yeah, I put a link in the agenda to some examples of what IGPs might look like at GitLab. So I'll caveat it with these are examples that I made when we used that former template in Google Docs, not in Workday. But the content, like I said, the intention and the content isn't new. So you might find these examples as really helpful. I'm pretty sure there's 4. There's one for there's one for ICs, aspiring managers, and like someone looking for more like lateral or skill growth. It might be helpful for you to just look over the examples and start to get some ideas of what you could even be working on. So if you're feeling like I really have no idea where to start, I would suggest looking through those examples.
I love
Or
it.
having that career conversation, like with your manager, just to talk it out before you start putting things down. And you have 3 people at least, probably more than that on this call that could also have a brainstorming session with you, and help kind of foster some ideas just through a coffee chat. So tap into Trey and Samantha and myself as resources to consult if that is something that's interesting to you.
Yes. I like that you're reading my mind, Denise, because that was my next question. How about a coffee chat? And I was thinking, maybe if you're not comfortable with your manager, you can talk to a peer, someone that works with you closely. Maybe they could give you some career compliments that you could put in there or ideas on what you really excel at. And then obviously this wonderful talent team. So it sounds like that's a yes. The talent team is open for coffee chats.
Yes.
Thank you. Juliana, it looks like you have a comment in here. Did you want to verbalize it?
Happy to, yeah. Something that I've actually picked up from the I Am Remarkable workshop when we started facilitating that is to keep kind of an accomplishments document that's private just for you, doesn't need to be shared with anyone else. I found that to be super helpful when you think about the process of creating an IGP or a promo doc or a self-evaluation, to have something that's kind of ongoing, real time in the moment. You don't have the pressure to share it with anyone. It's just for you. So it's not like you have to come up with all of the things all at once and there's that pressure of that single point in time. So definitely recommend that for anyone else.
I actually have a follow-up question to that. How do you define an achievement? Like, I sometimes feel confused. Am I just doing my work, or is it something I can put in as an achievement?
I think for me, I'll drop something down if I'm like, I feel like I did a good job on this thing, and the bar is pretty low. And so it ends up being a doc of just like, I think I did well here. And then when I think about what I'm focused on trying to do, I'll like reread through and pull in the things that feel more appropriate. But personally, I'm pretty like, oh, I had a great call this week. Oh, this MR was great. I was able to resolve something. The bar is pretty low. And I found that to be helpful for me personally, because it just puts a little bit less pressure on it. And again, like at the end of the day, it's literally a private doc for me and me alone. So I opt for more of anything that I feel like I did well on goes, and then I'll kind of like skinny it down later.
I would say take a look at your Slack too. Like if anyone posts about you in the thanks channel, that's a great screenshot to grab. Or even on your one-on-ones with your manager, if he's really like, you did really good at XYZ, or this was amazing, I really appreciate your help here. Those are all great things to kind of squirrel away as well.
Yeah, I think it's a great tip, because we so focus on, oh, I could have done better, or I didn't like how I showed up, or that was really hard. And to just like reframe that into what I'm proud of. And it's almost like the practice of gratitude, and getting that in your normal cadence, I think is good for us as humans. And then it also has this added benefit that you can feed it into your IGP or your self-eval or what have you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If you
those
don't mind, if I could chime in, my manager also asked me to make an achievement doc, and his framing was, you can think of your achievements as like personal value ones, what is important for your growth, showing your own growth within the team, and also a business value one, like what did you bring to the company? Have you advanced some of GitLab's values in some of the actions that you've done? That's a bit more formal structuring, and I mostly just started with it, so I'm just kind of working with it to see if I like how it's framed, but that's another idea.
That sounds like a good idea.
And if you do have like just a data dump, you could also theme them in those two buckets, like Juliana was saying, you know, when she skinnies it down or like list her stuff. You could have those two buckets as your theme areas.
Yeah.
These are all great tips. I'm going to go ahead and keep moving forward on the next one because I see a question on it in the chat as well, which my next question was, how often should we updating our IGP? And Javiera writes, do you have any suggestions for how often to review IGP progress with our manager? So should we review this document every month? So a nice little add-on question.
Yeah. So our kind of formal answer is twice yearly. But you can update it at any time. So as I said in Workday, it gives you the opportunity to update your progress against your goals, to close out goals, add new ones, etc. Some people choose to stop one and start one if they change roles. Like I have a new opportunity to open a new one because I'm in a different role now as talent management. Or if you've been promoted because you're, you know, there might be some different goals that are now associated with your new role. So again, it's a living document updated at any time, but most people, I think, take the opportunity at mid-year and then the opportunity at the beginning of the fiscal and you know, when we do our self-evals and performance evals. Suggestions on how often to review the IGP process with your manager. I think it depends. I think, you know, if you're updating it regularly, it could be monthly if that suits you and your manager. At least quarterly would be something that I would suggest. And again, that's, you know, it doesn't have to be a special meeting. It can be as part of your your regular one-to-one. You know, we should own our development. So you kind of reaching out and saying, hey, on this one-to-one, I want to focus on my IGP. I just recently updated it, or I'm progressing against these goals. I'd love your feedback. You know, it's kind of as and when you feel, but I would say at least quarterly, if not more often.
That's some great guidance. I also imagine it could also depend on what that growth plan looks like, right? If this year it's, hey, I just want to work on a skill, maybe we don't have to check in quite as often. But if it's, hey, I want to have a promotion by this date, then you may need to be tapping into that plan a little bit more frequently.
Yeah, there's no right or wrong answer here. It's the wrong answer is just doing it once and leaving it on the shelf and forgetting about it. Like you're taking the time to fill it out and like, let's keep it going because, you know, that's what's helping drive your development. It's a tool to help you be intentional.
That's a great call out. The last official question that Alex and I had in here was one of my favorites, which is I would love to hear from our panelists. What's the best piece of career advice that you've gotten?
Yeah, mine is just about like being intentional about what I say yes to, and that like remembering that every time that I say yes to take something on, I'm like also saying no to other things. And I feel like really grateful that in my role at GitLab, I feel like Trey and I just actually had my like development conversation this morning, and I was sharing about how I have a lot of autonomy in my role. And so I get to like say yes to things that I feel most excited to work on. So I guess, yeah, I really appreciated that advice and that reminder that like you have a lot of power in the choices that you make. And so you can really use that to make sure that you're saying yes to projects that make you excited to show up to work every day and that are driving you towards whatever your future career goals are, whether that be something you want to be better at in 6 months or like this long-term vision you have for yourself in 5 years from now. So still a work in progress remembering to do that, but it's advice.
That's a great one. Denise, how about you?
Yeah, this was a hard one for me because I've had lots of advice over the many years of work. But one thing that I always come back to is doing what you love. And sometimes that means you have to take a risk. And because what you thought your journey was going to be when you started your career or even midway may take another path. And that's absolutely okay because it's your journey. It's not what other people think you should be doing in your career or, not every journey is linear. As we talked about, I've jumped from leading huge teams to individual contributor to teams again to being an individual contributor, for example, different functions within the people team. And it wasn't necessarily what I thought I was going to do when I first started my career. And I've taken some risks. Some of them have panned out, some of them have not, but they're all a learning opportunity.
That is definitely the truth. We also have to make lots of mistakes in order to really, really learn. So I constantly have to remind myself not to be scared to take those risks. It's okay to fail. It will be a great learning experience.
Growth.
Oh, there you go. Trey, how about yourself? Any hot career advice that comes to mind for you?
Somebody told me to run once. I'm joking. No. No, for me. I do remember this moment that I had with a coach a while back, talking about executive presence and how like the term I think needs a rebrand. I was trying to prep for this presentation to like our executive group and a previous company, another company, and I don't know, I was overly fixated on the right words and what I should wear and all of these things. And she reminded me about like authenticity and like why I was in the role that I was in and why I was getting an opportunity to present in this way. She's like, look, executive presence, right? Like doesn't necessarily mean like the same thing to everyone. And so like you get to define kind of what your leadership signals are, what like how you show up, the things that you should be speaking to, so on and so forth. And so this was a few years back, and I've since then just kind of, I don't know, not cared or whatever. It's like, great, I'm gonna wear this t-shirt because I'm most comfortable in that, and then speak to whatever I need to speak to. So I thought that was a really good piece of advice. Also, that same coach did kind of really make me understand that phrase that you all have probably heard before. It's like, what got you here may not get you there. And so thinking really about being intentional about like, what is there? Like, what does that actually look like? What is the destination? If you don't have an idea of what that is, like, how can you expect for, I don't know, maybe your manager, your peers, or like, you just won't necessarily fall into it, or at least not everyone just kind of falls into these things. And so being intentional about like where it is that you want to go and think about things that you need to start doing differently. How might you grow? How might you stretch yourself in different directions, or just how you show up maybe in a new, elevated and improved way helps you to get quote unquote there.
I feel like this is such a full circle moment because what I heard was you got to have a plan, my friends. And that plan might as well be that IGP, that individual growth plan, because you're absolutely right. How are we going to get to where we want to be if we don't know what that destination is? So thank you so much for that reminder. These are all great tips, and we have a whopping 8 minutes left. I only need like 1 or 2 minutes for wrap up, which means we have a little time to hear from our attendees. Does anybody else have any other questions about IGPs, about the content around them, or does anybody want to share any career advice that they've gotten that they've really, that has really resonated with them?
I have a question.
Let's hear it, Helen. This can be a good one.
Or spicy, or I'm about to get fired. What do we recommend when your boss is not a big advocate for you, but you know your worth? Asking for a friend.
Is it to the group or to certain people?
It's to the group.
I would say that well, I'll tell you what I do. I would advocate for them and offer what you would like to give to yourself. This is very weird. I'm giving advice to myself 2 years ago. I would like to take a second step back and ask myself why I need somebody to advocate for me. And then I could be able to give that to those people to then ask for the help. Because the hardest part was asking for help. So I would say if you see someone that you think should ask for help, I would offer it and then ask them what they need and then be there for them. That's, I think, the first step. And then you can actually advocate for them later, because right now you can't do anything. It feels very helpless. So to get over that helplessness, I would say if you can identify what you think they need to work on or whatever the problem is, right? It helps them see it from an outside perspective so they can then ask for that help.
Amelia, I see you've raised your hand. Did you have something you want to contribute?
Yeah, I just kind of to address that point. I think the question is like, why do you feel you need someone to advocate for you? If your leader isn't your biggest advocate, it poses a challenge for career growth. I think everybody can agree on that. So I think the question is around, what do you do when that person who potentially, holds the key to the kingdom is not necessarily the sail, at the back of your wings? Like, do you find advocates like in other departments? Do you find advocates higher? Like, how do you continue to position yourself for growth when the person who would usually be your, most fervent supporter isn't necessarily that?
Yeah, I was just this was at GitLab. I can't remember who it was, but someone had this advice one time about like building your own board of directors. It might even been Sharita. I don't know if she's still on the call. It might have been her that said that. But I think that like your manager should be on that board of directors, and it sounds like maybe like sometimes they're not. And so you still, I don't know, I like always kind of go back to like what is my own like personal agency and like power that I have in like defining my own path. And so I would just encourage you to be like, okay, this person isn't a good, they're not stepping up to be on my board of directors. And so who can I find that would be, and that is like there to do that for me? And maybe that's finding a mentor or a sponsor or someone else who is going to advocate for you.
I think also there's something to be said about standing up for yourself. If you find that you're not being supported, I think that's something to talk about. And because you're not alone. And you could also find a lot of group of individuals that have gone through similar things and can uplift you and support you, and give you hope that you can change things with that leader. And maybe that leader is not aware as much. So giving the leader an opportunity to hear you out, because I always tell my marriage, he can't read my mind and I can't read his mind. So it's important to be able to communicate. And if you feel that way, first of all, communicate with that, and then find the people that can lift you up.
That's such a good call out, Marina. We're all speaking English, but sometimes it can be so hard to truly understand each other.
I've got a
Um,
question about process that ties into Helen's question. But can you work with, like, say you want to get a promotion and your manager's not the best advocate? Can you challenge that with cross-departmental managers or the director above them? Like, it's more of like a process question within GitLab.
Yes. Sorry, that was just enthusiasm, not an answer.
See, and this is why I love when people ask questions, because you know there's more than one person that has it. So thank you for verbalizing it. I was just thinking, I know the Women's TMRG just hosted sessions with team member relations, which is a group that I'm not sure if everyone is aware of. And I was just looking for the links in the background, but I'm not fast enough. But that could be a really great team to take a look at and maybe see if there's someone on that team that could do a coffee chat with you and kind of bounce some of these questions off, because I myself do not have the answers. Not sure if anybody else on this call has had any experience with something like this, or has some good links for us.
I do know there's a skip level meetups that you get from the level above your manager. I think that can be a good place to advocate yourself. And yeah, like Marina said, it's also nice to have an open communication, because sometimes you don't know if you're conveying what you're thinking correctly. So I think.
To that point, I did the same thing. I set up a coffee chat with my director and then one with my VP, two separate ones. So I set up a personal one just to, talk to them as a human and remind them that we are here as people, right? And then 2 weeks later, I had a specific one just for goals of work, as in, this is what I'm working on with my direct manager. This is what I'm working on with the team to kind of manage around, and then fill in the checkbox gaps, right? So in the handbook, it tells you like what your job description is. Yours is different than mine, obviously, but mine has a lot of like extra job titles that maybe not be like what a CSM is. So I try to focus on those, right? Like, how do you help an associate? How do you help someone who may want to mentor someone? And I tried to tell them about those gaps that maybe nobody else was doing, so I could highlight what my I guess benefit to the team was, right? Because if we're all technical or we're all selling, that's fine, right? But what do you offer that makes you unique? I tried to highlight those things because I felt that they weren't aware, and they weren't because they weren't talking to me. So setting up those 2 individual chats with those individuals, I think was helpful to them to see like what I was doing. I got a promotion, but I don't know if it was because of that. I just wanted to highlight, like, I feel like they were aware of what I was doing, but I had to take that extra step and communicate around other people, because you can only do so much, right?
These are all such great tips. And I know we're at time, so I did want to wrap really quickly, but it sounds like, take note who's in the room, everyone. Sounds like we've got some good coffee chat brewings. I just wanted to remind everyone our next career growth session is June 20th. So I went ahead and linked the invite, as well as the notes doc. You can always contribute asynchronously. We're going to be talking to Devin from the People Division. So excited to learn more about the People Division and also learn about his career progression experience. I linked the full calendar, so keep an eye on that. Links will start coming live as we schedule things. And then the talent team has some great sessions coming up. I don't know, Denise, if you wanted to quickly talk about the Slack post that was linked in here.
Yeah, so it's mid-year time. So opportunity for you to have a check-in with your manager and also dust off your IGP. We are going to be co-facilitating some sessions for team members to really help you think about, how do I broach that conversation? How do I receive feedback? How do I think about my IGP or that career conversation? So we'll be doing that. And then we're also having, some enablement sessions for managers to really help them think about how to provide feedback, how, if their team member hasn't initiated that career conversation, it's part of their job too, as developing their teams, and how to think about, our philosophy around high performing teams when we're having these conversations. So Sessions will be coming up last week of June, first week of July. They have not been added to the team calendar yet, but keep an eye out.
Oh, that sounds awesome. Definitely we'll be checking those out. I'm hoping those will be recorded as well.
Yes, of course.
Okay, good. All right, and then finally, Alex, thank you so much for coming on this adventure with us for June. Anything going on? I know it's Pride Month. I know you all have stuff going on. Was there anything that you wanted to highlight or point folks to as we continue to celebrate Pride Month here at GitLab?
Yes. Well, we have one thing we're doing together again, right? In a few weeks. With I don't have my notes, so I forgot the person's name. Oh my gosh, I'm awful. But it's coming up in I think on the 26th. Is that what we decided? Anyway, check Slack because I will get myself together and actually tell you the truth about when it is. But we're also doing another thing together in I think it's next week, right? The virtual Zona Rosa tour, which is the queer district in Mexico City. And that's next Friday. So check that out as well.
Amazing. Yes, we've got lots of good things happening. It's Ozzy. Ozzy is
yes,
a board member. He's going to talk about more representation within boards. And he works both within LGBTQ. I'm sorry, it's my words are failing me, but yes, he works with both of our groups. I want to just call it Pride and Gente, but I know that's not right. But thank you everyone so much again. I know we're a couple minutes over. Keep the conversations going. Get into Workday. Step 1, Okta. Step 2, Workday. Growth plan. And let's get to growing together. So thank you to our panelists so much for your time. And recording will be posted soon. So we will see you around the virtual office.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care, everyone.